The silent encounter. The stars were quiet that night, silent and endless, stretching far beyond the reach of any living soul. A broken colony ship drifted near Jupiter, its hull torn open, lights flickering like dying fireflies. Inside the wreck, among twisted metal and frozen air, a small alien girl hid behind a shattered control panel, her thin arms wrapped around her knees, her eyes glowing faint blue in the darkness. She was trembling, hungry, and afraid. She had been told that humans were monsters, that they burned worlds and took pleasure in pain. So when the sound of heavy boots echoed through the ship, her heart nearly stopped. Commander Elias moved carefully through the wreck, his helmet light cutting through the dust and smoke. He was alone, sent from a nearby Terran patrol to check the ruins for survivors. Most humans would have called it hopeless, but Elias never ignored a distress signal. His scanner beeped softly, showing a faint life sign deeper in the corridor. He frowned, wondering who or what could have survived such destruction. He whispered into his comms, "I'm reading something alive here," but only static answered back. The storm around Jupiter had blocked long-range signals, leaving him completely on his own. As he moved closer, he heard a small noise, a weak gasp, maybe even a sob. Elias turned his light toward the sound and froze. There, half hidden under broken pipes, was a little alien girl, her skin pale silver with faint markings that shimmered when she breathed. She looked no older than 12 in human years, her body thin like she hadn't eaten in days. When his light fell on her face, she hissed softly and tried to crawl away. Her voice cracked with fear. "Don't hurt me, please." Elias slowly lowered his weapon and knelt, his voice calm and soft. "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." The girl shook her head, her small hands covering her face. "They said humans cut us open," she whispered. "They said you enjoy our screams." Her words struck Elias like a blade. He took off his helmet slowly, letting her see his face, his eyes full of warmth, not hatred. "My name is Elias," he said gently. "I'm human, yes, but I don't hurt children." The girl hesitated, staring at him with wide, uncertain eyes. Her kind had seen war, and the Terran fleets had crushed many enemies. To her people, humans were the beasts of nightmares. But the man before her looked nothing like a monster. He extended a ration bar toward her, still wrapped. The smell of food made her stomach twist in hunger. After a long silence, she reached out with trembling fingers. Her nails were cracked, her wrist marked with strange lines. Burns or scars? Elias couldn't tell. She ate slowly, watching him, every bite a battle between fear and need. When she finally finished, she whispered, "Why did you save me?" Elias sighed, his voice soft. "Because no one else came." The emergency lights flickered as the ship groaned. Elias checked his scanner again. It warned of oxygen loss. He needed to get her out fast. He stepped closer, reaching out a hand, but when she moved, her torn clothing shifted underneath. He saw something that froze him. Her small torso was covered with thin scars, deep and uneven like someone had carved into her flesh. He drew in a sharp breath, his chest tight with shock. "What happened to you?" he asked quietly. The girl flinched, pulling her shirt down, her eyes filling with tears. "They said it would make me better," she whispered. "They said the pain was good." Elias felt anger burn inside him, a cold rage that he hadn't felt since the war. He looked at the scars again, at how carefully they had been made. This wasn't an accident, this was someone's experiment. He knelt beside her, voice trembling but kind. "Who did this to you?" She shook her head, whispering, "The ones who said they protect us." He understood immediately. She wasn't afraid of humans. She was afraid of her own empire, the one that had lied to her about who the real monsters were. As the ship creaked and another explosion echoed in the distance, Elias made a quick choice. He lifted her gently in his arms. Feeling how light she was, the girl tried to protest weakly. "You'll hurt me." He shook his head. "No, I won't," he said. "You've had enough pain." Carrying her through the flickering corridors, he spoke softly. "My ship is close. We'll get you somewhere safe." For the first time, the girl didn't fight him. She just closed her eyes and whispered, "Safe." The word felt strange to her, like something from an old dream. When they reached the airlock, the cold vacuum of space glimmered outside. Elias secured her in his arms and activated his suit's thrusters. They drifted toward his patrol craft, stars reflecting on his visor as they entered the human ship. Warmth and light filled the small cabin. He placed her gently on a medbed. Scanning her wounds, the machine hummed, showing results that made him clench his fists. Foreign implants, surgical incisions, deliberate cruelty. Whoever had done this to her hadn't been human. And in that moment, Elias swore silently. Whoever they were, they would pay. The girl opened her eyes slowly and looked up at him, her voice soft and broken. "You're not like they said," Elias smiled faintly, brushing dust from her hair. "Maybe," he whispered. "You'll see that humans aren't cruel after all." Outside, Jupiter's storm clouds rolled like living fire, and somewhere in the shadows of deep space a new story of mercy had just begun. The girl from the stars. The small ship glided through the silent void, its engines glowing a soft blue against the endless black. Commander Elias sat beside the medbed, watching the fragile alien girl breathe. Her chest rose and fell slowly, each breath a small victory against death. The scanner still blinked red with alerts, old wounds, starvation, dehydration, and something else hidden deep inside. He leaned closer, reading the data again, and frowned. There were signs of implants fused into her bones. Foreign technology unlike anything Terran science used. He whispered to himself, "What did they do to you?" "Kid," the girl stirred, her small hands trembling as she woke. When her eyes opened, they glowed faint blue in the dim cabin light. For a moment she panicked, gasping as she looked around. Elias raised his hand slowly, his voice calm. "Easy. You're safe here." She blinked, confused. "Safe," she repeated softly, as if testing a word she had never spoken before. He nodded, smiling faintly. "Yeah, safe. You're on my ship now. Name's Elias." She tilted her head, uncertain. "Why help me? Human." He hesitated, then shrugged. "Because someone has to." The girl looked away, her small body shivering under the blanket he had wrapped around her. Her voice came out in a whisper. "My name is Leora." The name sounded musical, delicate, but her tone carried sadness like a shadow. Elias smiled gently. "That's a beautiful name." Leora didn't answer. She stared at the stars through the glass viewport. "Stars look different here," she said quietly. "Brighter, like they're closer." He followed her gaze. "Maybe they are, or maybe it's because you're finally looking at them without fear." She turned her head slightly. Studying him, her eyes searched his face. The scars on his cheek, the tiredness behind his smile. "You fought in the wars," she said softly. Not asking but knowing, Elias nodded slowly. "Yeah, long time ago." "Did you kill many?" she asked. His eyes darkened, and for a moment, he didn't speak. "Too many," he finally said. "But not because I wanted to. Sometimes you fight so others don't have to." She looked down at her hands, tracing the faint marks on her skin. "Then maybe you understand," she whispered. Elias leaned forward. "Understand what?" Leora hesitated, her throat tightening as if the words were trapped inside her. "They said the experiments were for protection," she said. "They said pain would make us stronger." Elias felt his stomach twist. "Experiments," he repeated. She nodded. "They took children from my colony. They said we were chosen. They cut us, changed us, made us live through nightmares so they could build soldiers who never die." Her voice broke at the end, a small sound that wasn't quite a sob. Elias sat silently, his jaw clenched, the hum of the ship filling the space between them. He wanted to tell her it would be okay, but he knew those words meant nothing right now. After a while, she asked, "Humans, they don't do this." He shook his head. "No, not anymore." She tilted her head again. "Anymore." He smiled sadly. "We learned the hard way. Once we were like them, cruel in the name of progress, but we changed. We had to, or we wouldn't have survived ourselves." Leora was silent for a long time, thinking about his words. Then she asked softly, "Why do you still fight then?" He looked out at the stars. "Because there are still those who haven't learned yet." The girl leaned back, her eyes half closed as she whispered, "They said humans destroyed worlds, that you burned our skies." Elias sighed. "We did sometimes, but not yours, never yours." She nodded faintly. "They showed us pictures." "Pictures can lie," he replied. "People can too." She stared at him, her small face serious. "How do I know you're not lying too?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "You don't, you just have to see for yourself." The silence between them grew softer, more comfortable. Outside, Jupiter's moons passed in pale arcs of light. Elias checked the navigation system, setting course for the nearest Terran station. "Rest," he said quietly. "We'll be there soon." Leora turned to him again, her voice almost a whisper. Will they hurt me? Elias met her gaze, his eyes firm and calm. Not while I'm breathing. For a moment. She believed him, not because of his words, but because of the way he said them. Later, while she slept, Elias reviewed the scans again. The implants were old, invasive, but still active. He tried to access their data and found encrypted alien codes. When he decrypted a small portion, his screen flickered, showing a symbol. A crest from the Galactic Dominion, the same empire that claimed to protect small worlds. His eyes narrowed, realization hitting hard. They were experimenting on their own people, using them as weapons, and if they learned Leora was alive, they would come for her. Elias leaned back in his chair. Staring at the sleeping girl, she looked peaceful now, her scars faint under the soft light. But he knew peace wouldn't last. He whispered to himself, "You're safe for now, kid. I'll keep you that way." Outside, his ship sailed silently through the dark sea of stars. Far behind them, signals began to stir across alien space. Unseen eyes had already noticed that one of their experiments had gone missing. And far away in the cold heart of the Dominion, someone whispered, "Bring her back." The scars tell the truth. The Terran patrol ship drifted quietly between the moons of Jupiter. Inside, the hum of the engines filled the silence. Soft and steady like a heartbeat, Commander Elias sat alone in the medbay, his face lit by the pale blue glow of the monitors. He was studying Leora's scans again, each line of data more disturbing than the last. The implants inside her weren't random, they were precise, placed near nerve clusters and organs. Whoever had done this wasn't trying to heal her. They were changing her. He rubbed his eyes and leaned back, the chair creaking beneath him. He had seen many horrors during the Galactic Wars, but this felt different. This wasn't war. It was cruelty hidden behind science. The Dominion had always claimed to be noble, claiming they uplifted lesser species. Now Elias knew the truth. They didn't uplift anyone. They tore them apart to rebuild them into slaves. A faint sound pulled him from his thoughts. Leora was standing at the doorway, holding onto the frame. Her silver eyes watching him, she was barefoot, wearing the oversized Terran uniform he had given her. It hung loosely from her small frame, making her look even more fragile. "I couldn't sleep," she said softly. "The ship hums like it's whispering." Elias smiled faintly. "That's just the reactor core. It's a good sound. Means we're still alive." She stepped closer, her gaze curious and uncertain. "Were you looking at me again?" she asked quietly, her voice holding no fear this time, just curiosity. Elias nodded. "Yes, I wanted to understand what they did to you." Leora hesitated, then walked closer, climbing slowly onto the medbed. She pulled her knees to her chest and looked at the screens. Lines of code, diagrams of her body, glowing symbols she didn't understand. "Is it bad?" she asked. "The things inside me." Elias looked at her gently. "They're not supposed to be there. They hurt you." She nodded slowly as if she already knew. "They called us blessed," she whispered. "But every blessing hurt more." Elias's heart ached hearing that. He opened a small drawer and pulled out a holo recorder. He activated it, recording the scans, the markings, and her story. "Why are you recording?" Leora asked, tilting her head. "Because the galaxy needs to see what they've done," he said. "No one will believe it otherwise." She looked at him for a moment, her eyes reflecting the faint blue light. "You're angry," she said softly. He exhaled slowly. "I am." "Because this isn't right," she reached out, touching the scar on his cheek. "You have marks too," she said. "You were changed," Elias chuckled weakly. "Yeah, maybe not by machines, but by war." Leora nodded, understanding more than he expected. "I think pain changes everyone," she whispered. Her small hand dropped back to her lap, trembling slightly. Elias noticed the movement and frowned. He looked at her vitals. Her heart rate was rising, her temperature dropping. The implants were reacting again, glowing faintly beneath her skin. "Leora, stay still," he said quickly, activating the medical stabilizer. Her eyes widened in panic as light rippled through her veins. "What's happening?" she gasped. Elias watched in alarm as alien code flashed across his screen. The implants were transmitting a signal. Someone or something was trying to locate her. He slammed the console shut and disconnected power. The lights flickered, then steadied. The transmission cut short. Leora fell back against the bed, breathing hard, tears running down her cheeks. Elias held her hand, his voice calm but urgent. "You're okay. I stopped it. She looked at him, fear trembling in her words. They found me. They always find me. Elias shook his head. Not this time. I won't let them. After a few minutes, her breathing slowed. He wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, his voice softer now. They used you as a signal beacon, a living tracker. She closed her eyes, whispering, so they could bring me back. Elias clenched his fists, his jaw tight. No one is taking you anywhere, he said firmly. I'll erase every trace they left, but deep down, he knew it was only a matter of time before the Dominion noticed the signal had stopped. Later, when Leora had fallen asleep again, Elias began working in silence. He decrypted more of the implant data, and what he found chilled him. The files contained lists, names, coordinates, hundreds of children like Leora, each marked as Subject Class Omega, each missing after experimentation, and every file ended the same way, failed or terminated. Except for one, her name, Leora, labeled as active. He stared at it for a long moment, his throat dry. She wasn't just one of many. She was the last one alive. The truth hit him like a weight. The Dominion wouldn't stop until they reclaimed her. He turned off the lights and leaned back, staring out at the stars. His reflection shimmered faintly against the glass alongside the sleeping girls. He whispered quietly to the void. They think they can hide this. They think no one will care. He looked at her again, small and fragile, but still breathing, still fighting. Well, they're wrong, he said, his voice hard with determination. If humanity once burned empires, we can burn lies too. Outside, the stars moved silently across the void, but somewhere in the darkness, a signal had already reached a listening ear. A cold metallic voice whispered across the void. Subject Leora confirmed alive. Retrieve at all costs. And as the Dominion's fleet stirred in distant space, Commander Elias tightened his grip on his blaster, knowing that soon he would have to fight not just for one girl, but for the truth buried beneath her scars. Voices in the dark. The patrol ship drifted through the quiet emptiness between stars. Only the hum of the engines and the faint pulse of the life support filled the air. Commander Elias hadn't slept in 2 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the glowing implant patterns under Leora's skin. Every time the ship's console beeped, he feared it meant someone had found them. He sat in the cockpit staring at the navigation map. The Dominion's border was far away, but not far enough. He had jammed all outgoing transmissions, changed transponder codes, even turned the Terran flag off the hull, hoping to look like a scrap hauler, but he knew the Dominion had long memories. They would hunt their property across the galaxy if needed. Behind him, a soft voice spoke. Elias. He turned and saw Leora standing by the doorway again. Her pale silver hair shimmered in the faint cabin light. She was wearing one of his flight jackets, the sleeves too long for her small arms. I told you to rest, he said gently. She shook her head. I can't. They whisper again. Elias frowned. Whisper, she nodded, pointing at her head. Inside, in the dark part, they whisper numbers, names, orders. Her voice trembled. Sometimes I think it's me saying them. But it's not. Elias rose and guided her to the seat beside him. He scanned her neural readings. Faint electromagnetic spikes appeared. The implants were trying to activate a communication protocol. He whispered, They left a failsafe inside you. Leora looked scared. Can you stop it? He nodded. Maybe, but I'll need help. He tapped into the ship's encrypted link and sent a coded pulse toward a nearby asteroid relay. A few minutes later, a static-filled voice answered. Terran Patrol 6. Identify yourself. This is Commander Elias Cade. ID 778 Delta, he said. I'm running dark. I need a secure line to command. The voice paused. You're off-grid, Elias. What are you doing near Dominion space? Saving someone who shouldn't exist, Elias said quietly. A long silence followed. Then the voice returned. Transmit data, Elias hesitated, looking at Leora, who watched him with wide, uncertain eyes. If he sent the files, Terran Command might take her away for protection. But if he didn't, he'd be alone. He sent a partial packet, just enough to prove she was real. The reply came back almost instantly. Understood, maintain radio silence. Extraction in 72 hours. He shut off the console and leaned back. Leora asked softly, Are they coming to take me? Elias looked at her, his expression unreadable. They're coming to help, he said. But his heart didn't believe his own words. Later, when she finally fell asleep, Elias went to the cargo bay. He opened a secure crate and stared at the weapon inside. A plasma rifle marked with the crest of the Terran Vanguard. It was a relic from the wars. Illegal now, too dangerous to keep, but he had kept it anyway. As a reminder of what humans could become when pushed too far, he lifted it slowly, his reflection cold in the metal. If they come for her, he whispered, they'll find the same monsters they once feared. Hours passed. Outside, the stars grew dim as the ship entered an asteroid field. Elias shut down the main engines to hide from scanners. The ship floated silently between massive rocks. He sat by the viewport, watching the slow dance of shadows and light. And for the first time he noticed Leora standing beside him, quietly watching the same stars. You should be asleep, he said. I dreamed of fire, she whispered. And I saw humans in the sky, not destroying, but protecting. He smiled faintly. That's rare. Good dreams about humans, she nodded. Maybe you made it. For a long moment, there was silence. Then Leora whispered, do you ever get lonely? Elias looked at her, surprised. Sometimes, he said, but it's easier when I have someone to talk to. She smiled faintly, a shy, uncertain smile. You're not like the stories they told, she said. They said humans have no hearts. He chuckled softly. We do, they just break easy. Suddenly the console beeped sharply. The radar lit up with red markers, incoming signals. Fast and organized, Elias cursed under his breath. They found us, he said, jumping to the controls. How? Leora gasped, clutching the seat. He looked at the readings, his mind racing. The implant pulse we stopped must have been logged. He activated the ship's defenses. Outside, small lights flickered, stealth drones from the Dominion, spreading like silver insects through the asteroid belt. Elias whispered quickly, Stay behind me. No matter what happens, Leora grabbed his arm, her voice shaking. You can't fight them all. He smiled faintly. I don't have to, I just need to delay them. He flipped a switch, flooding the area with electromagnetic noise. The drones flickered, confused. Then he fired the ship's thrusters, blasting into the nearest cluster of asteroids. Rocks shattered, explosions rippled through space. Leora screamed as the ship spun violently. Alarms flashing red, Elias gritted his teeth, fighting the controls. Hold on, kid, just hold on. After several chaotic minutes, silence returned. The radar went dark, no more signals. The ship floated. Damaged but alive, Elias exhaled slowly. Sweat dripping down his face, he turned to Leora, who was shaking but unhurt. You did good, he said softly. They lost our trail for now. She looked at him, eyes full of worry. For now, she repeated. He nodded. Yeah, but next time. We won't run. She tilted her head, confused. What will we do? He looked out the window, his eyes burning with quiet fire. We'll make them see what they did, he said. We'll show the galaxy who the real monsters are. Outside, the stars reflected in Leora's eyes, glowing brighter than before. And for the first time since she was taken, she dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, humanity wasn't cruel after all. The Hunter fleet. The message came through the static of deep space like a whisper of death. A coded Dominion signal pulsed once across the void, then vanished. Elias saw it appear on his console for less than a second, but it was enough. His heart sank. They had found them again. He stood silently in the dim cockpit, hands tight on the controls through the viewport. The asteroids shimmered with reflected starlight. Leora sat beside him, her small hands gripping the edge of the seat. Her voice trembled. They're coming. Aren't they? He nodded slowly. Yeah, and this time, they won't stop until they take you. The radar screen bloomed red. 1 ship, then 10, then 50. The Dominion fleet had entered the system. Heavy cruisers, carriers, hunter frigates. Their formation spread like a steel web around Jupiter's moons. Leora whispered, So many. Elias's tone stayed calm. Numbers don't win every fight, heart does. He opened a secure Terran channel and transmitted an emergency beacon. Command, this is Elias Cade, hostile fleet inbound, civilian aboard. Requesting immediate backup. Static answered for several long seconds. Then a cold voice replied, Acknowledged. Commander, hold position, the dreadnought Aegis is en route. Elias exhaled slowly. They heard us. But deep down he knew the Aegis was days away, and the Dominion would strike within hours. He turned toward Leora. I need you to trust me. She nodded, eyes wide. What will you do? Hide you, he said, and give them something else to chase. He led her to the maintenance bay and opened a hidden compartment beneath the floor. Inside was an old escape capsule lined with shield mesh and thermal dampers. He crouched down beside it. If they board us, you stay in here no matter what you hear. Promise me? Leora shook her head, tears welling. You'll die. He smiled faintly. Maybe, but at least you'll live. For a moment she said nothing, then whispered. Humans are strange, Elias chuckled softly. We get that a lot. The ship's alarms began to scream. The Dominion had arrived. Beams of blue light cut across the asteroid field. Metal thunder echoed through space as plasma torpedoes lit the darkness. Elias raced to the cockpit, sealing the hatch behind him. He fired the engines and dove between rocks. Each maneuver a narrow escape. One blast grazed the hull. Shaking the entire ship, sparks flew, and red warning lights bathed the control panels. A calm voice filled the comms. Dominion Admiral Sareth. Human vessel. You are harboring classified property of the Galactic Dominion. Release the specimen, and you may live, Elias replied with a steady voice. She's not property, she's a child. Sareth's tone sharpened. You dare defy the Dominion for a defective experiment? Elias smirked. Guess that makes me defective too. Then he cut the channel. The first enemy cruiser fired, a bright lance of plasma crossing the void. Elias rolled the ship hard, engines screaming. He returned fire, launching 2 old Terran missiles. They streaked through the darkness and exploded against the cruiser's shields. The shockwave threw the smaller ship off course. But Elias didn't stop. He fired again and again, using every trick he had learned in a dozen wars. One human against a fleet, the odds meant nothing to him. In the hidden compartment below, Leora clutched her knees. She could feel the vibration of each impact. The air around her trembled with the sound of explosions. She pressed her palms over her ears and whispered, Please don't die. Her implants flickered again, glowing faintly through her skin. Suddenly, she heard faint voices inside her mind. The Dominion's command link. Orders, positions, attack patterns, she gasped as realization hit her. She could hear them. She could help. Leora forced open the hatch and stumbled toward the cockpit. Elias turned in shock. I told you to stay hidden. She shook her head. I can hear them, their minds, their ships. Everything? He stared at her. What? She pointed at her head, tears running down her face. The implants, they still connect, I can use them. Elias hesitated. It could kill you. She stepped closer, her voice firm. Then let me die for something real. He met her gaze. Seeing no fear there now, only resolve. He nodded slowly. Okay, tell me where to hit. She closed her eyes. Breathing deeply, then she spoke softly. Cruiser 3, left flank. Weak shields. Elias turned the ship sharply and fired. The missile hit true. The cruiser exploded in brilliant light. Her voice came again, stronger. Carrier above. Blind spot on port side, he grinned. You're good at this. She smiled weakly. Maybe I was made for something better than pain. The battle raged for hours. One small Terran patrol ship darting between giants. Each shot guided by a child the galaxy had tried to break. And slowly, unbelievably, the Dominion line began to falter. Elias's systems burned out one by one, smoke filling the cockpit, but he kept fighting. Driven by something deeper than orders then. From the dark edge of space, a new light appeared, huge, bright, unmistakable, the Aegis Terran dreadnought. Its voice thundered across the comms. Patrol 6, stand clear. We have you. Elias laughed through the static. Took you long enough. The Dominion fleet opened fire. But it was already too late. The Aegis answered with a single barrage. Dozens of plasma lances cut through the darkness like sunrise. The Dominion ships broke apart in blinding fire. Leora watched the explosions, her eyes wide with awe. Elias turned to her. You see, we're not all cruel, she whispered softly. No, you're not. You're protectors. Outside, debris floated like falling stars. Inside, the ship's lights dimmed. Energy drained. Elias slumped against the seat. Exhausted, smiling faintly, the battle was over. But he could already feel pain spreading through his chest. The last thing he saw was Leora leaning over him, whispering, Don't leave me. He smiled. You'll be okay now. And the world faded into silence. Fire across the star's silence followed the storm. The great Dominion fleet was gone, torn apart by Terran fire, but in the middle of the wreckage, Elias's small patrol ship drifted. Damaged and half-dead, the life support flickered. Sparks leaping across the panels, Leora sat beside the command chair, clutching Elias's hand as he breathed weakly. He looked pale, his uniform torn, a dark stain spreading across his side. She shook her head, refusing to believe what she saw. "You can't leave me," she whispered. "You promised." Elias smiled faintly, his eyes half closed. "Guess I make bad promises," he murmured, his voice rough but soft. "Don't talk like that," she said sharply, tears glimmering in her silver eyes. "You said humans fight until the end." He smiled again. "Then I guess I'm still fighting." Outside the viewport, the Aegis loomed like a mountain of steel. It had saved them, but the battle wasn't truly over. Elias's scanner blinked red again. Faint energy spikes echoed through the wreckage field. The Dominion wasn't gone. They were sending something else, something darker. A massive pulse erupted from the void, a distortion wave sweeping through space. The Aegis trembled. Its shields flaring white, Leora gasped. "What is that?" Elias stared, jaw tight. "It's their failsafe." The wreckage around them began to glow. Fragments of destroyed ships twisted and reformed. Drawn together by magnetic fields, pieces fused, reshaping into something new, a vast living construct. An automated weapon born from the remains of the dead. The Dominion's final vengeance. Elias forced himself up, ignoring the pain. He grabbed the controls, his voice firm despite the blood on his lips. "Hold on, kid. It's not done yet." Leora looked terrified. "You can't fight that, it's too big." He nodded. "Yeah, but I can distract it." He turned to her. "Listen carefully, Leora. The Aegis has a prototype defense grid. Old tech. Dangerous tech, it can end this," she frowned. "Then use it." He shook his head. "It needs a manual trigger. And someone has to be close." Her voice broke. "No, you can't," he smiled gently. "I told you. We fight so others don't have to." Leora's hands trembled, the implants glowing faintly beneath her skin. Suddenly she looked up, determination burning in her eyes. "What if I can help?" she whispered. Elias frowned. "Leora." "No," she interrupted. "They built me to be a weapon. Maybe I can finally choose how to use it." Elias stared at her. Speechless for a long moment, neither spoke. The ship humming quietly around them, then he nodded slowly. "All right. Let's end it together." He guided the damaged ship closer to the Aegis. The great dreadnought's hull opened like a steel flower, revealing the pulse core, the heart of Earth's forbidden defense grid. Energy coiled like lightning inside it, bright and unstable. Elias synced the system to Leora's neural signature. Her body shook as streams of light crawled across her arms. The implants lit up fully for the first time. No longer cruel but radiant, she gasped. "It feels warm," Elias whispered. "That's what freedom feels like." Outside, the Dominion construct charged its weapon. A massive beam of red energy began to form. Aimed straight at Earth's fleet, Leora screamed, channeling the energy from her implants into the Aegis core. Her voice echoed through the ship. For every child they hurt, the pulse grid ignited. White light burst across space like a second sunrise. The Dominion weapon shattered instantly, its remains dissolving into glowing dust. The shockwave rippled through the void, cutting through every remaining hostile signal. For one endless moment, the stars themselves seemed to burn. When the light faded, silence returned again. The Aegis floated unharmed, its hull glowing softly. Elias slumped back into his seat, his vision fading. Leora fell to her knees beside him, still glowing faintly, her breathing uneven. "It's over," she whispered. "We did it," he smiled weakly. "You did it." "Leora," she shook her head. "No, we did." His eyes closed slowly. "Tell them the truth," he whispered. "Tell them we weren't cruel," she cried out. Shaking him, "Elias, please." But he didn't answer. The hum of the engines faded to a soft lullaby. Leora pressed her forehead against his hand, her voice breaking. "You saved me. I'll save them all." Hours later, Terran rescue crews boarded the ship. They found her sitting beside his body, silent, eyes glowing softly like starlight. When they tried to lift her, she whispered, "He's sleeping. Don't wake him." They didn't understand, but they carried them both to the Aegis in her heart. Something new had awoken. Not just sorrow, but purpose. Outside, the galaxy was changing. The Dominion's power was broken. Their crimes exposed, and across 1,000 worlds, whispers began to spread. about a human who defied the stars to save one child, and a girl once made from pain who lit the heavens with mercy. The promise beneath the scars days passed in quiet light. The great dreadnought Aegis drifted in orbit above Earth's pale moon, its hull still scorched from battle inside the medical wing. Machines whispered and hummed. Leora sat by a window, watching the blue planet below. Her reflection looked different now, but stronger. Older somehow, her eyes steady and calm. The scars on her arms had begun to fade, replaced by faint silver lines that shimmered softly like starlight. Doctors came and went, amazed by her recovery. They asked questions about the implants, the battle, the light she released. But she spoke little, always quiet, always distant. Her mind was on Elias, the human who had fought for her. His name echoed in her thoughts with every heartbeat. He had shown her what kindness looked like in a universe that had forgotten the word. A soft knock came on the door. A Terran officer stepped inside, his uniform marked with the seal of the council. "Miss Leora," he said gently, "they're ready for you." She rose slowly, smoothing the folds of her white medical tunic. Her movements were calm, but her hands trembled slightly. She followed him down the long silver corridor toward the council chamber. When the doors opened, a flood of light met her eyes. Representatives from 100 worlds sat around a vast circular hall. Humans, aliens, synthetic minds, all gathered to hear her speak. At the center stood the galactic banner, still scarred from centuries of war. Whispers rippled through the crowd as she walked to the podium. Many had heard the rumors. A Dominion experiment. A child weapon who had turned the tide, but no one had seen her until now. She paused, drawing a slow breath. The microphones hummed softly, amplifying the fragile calm in her voice. "My name is Leora," she said, "and I was made to be a weapon." A hush fell across the chamber. I was told that pain was power, that humans were monsters who only destroy. Her gaze lifted toward the human delegates, but one of them saved me. He didn't see a weapon. He saw a person. She pulled back her sleeve, showing the faint silver marks that crossed her arm. "These were scars once, now they are reminders," she said. "They remind me that mercy can be stronger than fear." Her words echoed against the marble walls, soft but unshakable. The Dominion hurt thousands like me. They called it science, they called it progress. She looked at the alien envoys seated in shameful silence. "You let it happen because you were afraid of humans. You believed lies instead of looking with your own eyes." The hall was utterly still. She lowered her arm and placed a small hollow device on the table. Elias's recorder. A blue image flickered to life, showing his logs, the scans. The proof of what the Dominion had done. Gasps filled the air, 1,000 voices rising in disbelief and horror. Leora's voice steadied. "This is the truth he died for, and I will not let his sacrifice fade into silence." For a long moment no one spoke. Then slowly the human representative stood, his eyes wet, his voice trembling. "On behalf of Earth and all Terrans, we thank you, Leora," he said. "You showed us that compassion is our greatest weapon." Applause began softly, then grew louder, waves of sound filling the chamber. Leora stood still, tears shining on her cheeks. She wasn't afraid anymore. Elias had told her once that humans fight so others don't have to. Now she understood. Now she carried that promise. After the hearing, she returned to the observation deck. The stars spread before her like an endless sea. She whispered quietly, "Elias, we did it." Outside, a faint ripple of light crossed the sky. As if the universe itself answered, she smiled, placing her hand over her healed scars. "They once showed my pain," she murmured. "Now they show his kindness." The story of the girl and the human spread across the galaxy. Worlds once divided began to speak again. Old enemies sat together under new banners of peace. And on every Terran outpost a single phrase was carved in remembrance. "Mercy is the fire that outlives the stars." Leora kept her promise. She traveled from world to world, teaching the children who had been broken by war. She told them not of cruelty or vengeance, but of a single man who saw worth where others saw weakness. And whenever someone asked why she still carried the marks on her skin, she smiled and said, "Because they remind me of the day a human saved the galaxy by saving one girl." The stars shone brighter that night, and somewhere beyond them, in the endless quiet, a voice seemed to whisper through the void, gentle and proud. "Well done, kid." And the galaxy finally understood what humanity truly was. Not monsters, not conquerors, but the protectors of hope, the keepers of mercy, and the fire that refused to die.